you've listened to this episode and you're thinking, I want to have that type of discipline mindset, that mentality to not give up, the ability to be so self-confident that no matter what changes in my life, I just keep going. I hope you're encouraged with the fact that the struggles in your life will be the path to the success you'll then celebrate. If you're doubting yourself, if you're in a time of pivot, take this story as an encouragement to give yourself a chance. Keep pushing yourself and not quit, because as we hear in this testimony, it can create some really beautiful success.
I learned being an entrepreneur, there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's the entrepreneur that sees the cup half empty. Then you have the other entrepreneur that sees the cup half full. And depending on the entrepreneur you are, you're going to see things differently on your journey. And I think the successful ones that see the cup half full, and the ones that do have that have one thing in common. They gave themselves a chance. Welcome to Give Yourself a Chance podcast.
Love it. Thanks, dude. Good intro. Tara.
Lovely.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Have you been on a podcast before?
Oh.
I'm shocked. Like, you've been really successful, so I'm shocked you haven't had like a lot of people trying to get you on a ton of podcasts on real estate. Well, I'm sure they've tried, but obviously you haven't gone on there yet.
No, someone asked me to speak at something once, and I was like, no.
Why not?
I don't like talking.
You're in the communication business.
Yeah, I love it. And you're really good at speaking, obviously, because of your success too. So if somebody is starting to tune in and they're like, okay, Tara, who is she? She has really cool pink pants.
Love pink.
Why should I listen to her further? What would you say? Like, what is your story of success? What success have you hit? In a quick 30 seconds, share with somebody some of the accolades of what success you've hit.
I came here to California to sell real estate. I didn't know a single person in Orange County. And, I think with perseverance and determination, I think you can really do anything. So I think you have to stick with it and not give up. I think ignorance is bliss, and maybe being naive was beneficial for me being younger. And I think working through what, a really tough market was, I think, 2010. It's 14 years ago.
Dang.
Yeah, one of the worst real estate markets. I'm like, moving to California, I'm going to sell high-end real estate, Looking back on it, probably wouldn't recommend doing that, but I'm happy I did.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you came then from being a stranger into Orange County, breaking into one of the toughest markets, most desired, high luxury, and now you're the number one realtor in the peninsula here in Newport Beach?
One or two.
Yeah. You're top 5 for sure in Orange County. Your year-to-date production is, I think, it's almost end of June, and you've done over 75 million. Like, wow, you are not a small producer. You are very successful here, and it's cool to see that success, especially you not having your own TV show or anything like that. Like, you actually just created success by talent, not by
hard work
status.
Right.
So I think that is a really beautiful story, and I'm excited to expand upon that a little bit more today. So tell us, like, where were you from? Why'd you come over? Like, where were you at before Orange County and taking this leap?
And the inception that caused you, like, I want to sell real estate.
Yeah, was it a TV show? Like, what took
No,
place?
it was before TV, right? It was before, not before TV.
I was about to say,
Whoa.
It was
crap.
before reality TV, especially like the real estate shows. No, but I bought my first house in Washington State when I was 20.
Okay.
And I remember getting the keys, and I was thinking, how the hell did I get keys to a house? Like, who did this,
Yeah.
And I loved it so much that I got my real estate license because I wanted to know more about what I had just done. And then I just loved the process. I loved everything about real estate. And I owned a coffee shop at the time, and I slowly transitioned from that into real estate. Kind of dabbled in property management for a while because I was pretty young. And then kind of got back into real estate, decided it's something I really want to do, but I didn't want to do it in Seattle.
Yeah.
It was cold and it's wet, and, the price point's not the same as it is here. So I thought, I looked on a map and I thought, okay, if I'm really going to commit and invest in myself in real estate, like, where do I want to live? And I'm like, Newport Beach. Literally 2 weeks, packed up my car,
Never
and drove
been here?
here.
Literally
I had
just
come
off
here
a map?
one time
Okay.
with my sister. And I didn't even know this place existed. I remember getting out of the car on the peninsula and I was like, holy shit, you can live here. Like, what am I doing wrong? So I think I made a mental decision that day, like that I wanted to live in Newport and sell, in Newport. So
And how old were you when you came over?
it's 14 years ago.
Wow.
All right, we'll just take that answer. It was 14 years
I'm
ago.
not good at math. Sorry.
So when you owned your coffee shop in Washington, was that the big craze of like Seattle's best, and like that's
Yeah.
when another one came, like is it Coffee Bean?
Starbucks.
When that's so you were there during that era.
Yeah, so it was actually before Starbucks was even crazy huge. I remember I had my coffee shop and I was kind of off of like a pretty busy road. And then I think a year after I owned it, a Starbucks went in like a block away and I was like,
Dang.
no. So
And then you left that. Did you close shop or did you
yeah,
sell it?
sold it and then just kind of,
didn't
ran
sell it
its
to Starbucks?
course. Just sold it to Starbucks. No, a barbecue place moved in of all
Really?
places. Yeah.
Holy crap. Sorry, man, did I cut you off?
No, that was a question I asked.
Okay.
Like,
So then you come here and what do you do? What's the first job you get?
I got a job working at Houston's as a hostess.
Houston's?
Yep.
They have good ribs.
the
Yeah.
Houston?
Yeah.
Oh.
On Jamboree. Yeah. I thought, well, I have to survive. I need to eat.
Yeah.
I have to pay rent because it's very expensive here. So I think the day I got here, I had an interview and I got hired. So I started working right away,
Dang.
rented a room,
Yeah.
living the glamorous life.
Just Houston server, renting a room.
They didn't know I wasn't even a server. I just did the hostessing.
Did
I
they
just
got you
sat
on like the
people.
Hall of Fame now there? Yeah.
They're like, we make successful people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went from Houston's, and how did you get into real estate? Was it like going on a big team? What were the components that happened?
Yeah, so I started getting my real estate license, which took some time. So I think it took me like 4 to 6 months from when I moved here to even take the test. And then I got hired. I went to first team because I didn't know anything. And they seemed to be really good with new agents, kind of have like that new agent protocol. Stayed there, actually that's where I met Dean Luke. I did some showings for him. So, 14 years ago, I was kind of like assisting, just doing buyer showings, to come full circle to be partners with Dean,
That's
14
crazy.
years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So you were at first team helping with showings. What was like your first shift? Like what happened? Because to even summarize, right? Like let's also highlight what's the highest price home you've sold or represented on the purchase. Can you share that?
17.6
17.6
so
million.
far.
So you went from Houston's hostess, not even server, to showing agent, right? Like you moved over here without, it sounds like you didn't even have like your DRE classes signed up for, like you came over
I had
here
the books. I was studying.
And
It
a
was
bag
like
of
back
coffee
before
beans.
you
but
did it
before you
online.
moved?
I think I'd started, because it was 2 weeks from when I made the decision and packed up my car. There was a 2-week timeline. So
That's
I
crazy.
think I just started doing the courses.
So
yeah.
literally Houston's hostess
Yeah.
to 17.6 mil of the highest transaction you've done so far. What was the shift? Like where was your break? Like what changed?
I think the hard part is, and I think a lot of people see me and then think, oh, I want to get into real estate. Like it's so easy. Like don't forget there's 14 years between that, right? So there's a lot of hustle. There's a lot of, grinding. It's not like the shows where we put on pretty clothes and go sit at lunch and drink, champagne all day. Like I didn't live that lifestyle. Like I went door knocking. I did open houses. I worked 3 jobs. I've
What
never.
was the other job?
I worked for this. This attorney guy. He was a scam, but anyway, I did a lot of work and never got paid. Let's just say that. Yeah.
So, summarize that a little bit more because I think people do only see what they see. And so if they have an opportunity to hear like what it actually took, I think that'd be really encouraging. So you had 3 jobs. What was the transition from going 3 jobs to I can actually start? Did you even have success with real estate when you went full time and quit those 3 jobs? Like what was the transition?
I didn't go full time until I think 2013.
Okay.
So I worked in the restaurant field for almost 3 years
Wow.
while getting started. Keep in mind, it was 2010, 2011, 2012. Like the market was pretty flat. I think I
Yeah.
sold one house
Dang.
in 2 years when I first started.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I say ignorance is bliss. Like if I think a lot of people get in and they don't realize how hard it is. And so I think you have to, if it's something you really want, you have to stick with it and kind of work through those struggles.
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have kids back then. So there's not a lot of, overhead, let's call it,
Yeah.
I rented a room. So I could kind of afford to,
Stick it out.
go through those living,
What were you
pains.
going through when you sold one house in 2 years? Like the psychological,
Yeah.
well, like the psychology behind keep it going, or like, hey, maybe something else. Like
Yeah.
what kept you on the
Hopeful.
path? Yeah.
I think I'm a big person when it comes to like mindset, and I always could see, like, I knew I could be successful. I knew I had to stick with it, and I'm not afraid of hard work. And giving up's really just not in my nature with anything. So I wanted to see my dream come to fruition. And there was nothing I think that I was afraid of to do to get where I wanted to be. And I'm still not even there, right? There's still things I want to do. Every day affirmations and goal setting and, all of those things.
Yeah.
So,
So tell us, were you on any other teams after
Oh,
that
yeah.
3 years?
Oh,
What
yeah.
was kind of like your experience with those? Were there any of those teams that you felt really pushed your business forward? Was there mentorship, exposure on branding? Was there any in that 14 years, right? So 3 years working on your own, then you went full time. Were there any teams that were really instrumental in helping you with now who you are?
yeah, there's definitely been some people in my life, I think, who've been very influential. So I actually worked from first team. I went to John McMonagle, and
That guy. A
yeah,
pretty well known guy.
and Paul. I was on Paul's team, and I remember I was door knocking the peninsula one day, and I did open houses for an agent, and I held this oceanfront open like every day that I could. It was vacant. I was there like any day that I could hold it open. And then the listing expired. They took it off the market. And then I was walking the boardwalk one day, and the owner was sitting outside. I was walking my dog, and I was like, "Oh, hey, I'm Tara. Like, I love your house. I used to do open houses here. Like, are you, and we just started talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I would sell it." And I had a buyer who wanted to buy an oceanfront, but wanted to trade his property in the desert. He had this like huge estate, he called it. So anyway, the client was like, "Yeah, I would be interested in a trade in the desert." So we find ourselves driving to the desert to go look at this estate. I say estate because when we get there, it's like shambles, like weeds are overgrown. I'm thinking, what have I just done? My only client that I've ever met, I've dragged him to the desert, and like the pool's empty, it's green, thinking. And he was so nice and he was so kind. And Paul, who was my team lead at the time, went with me. And he's like, just find a positive, thing. Like, we'll find something positive about this. So it's always helpful, I think, to have somebody who kind of, like, when you think like, oh, shit, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like, to have somebody kind of lift you up and like, oh, let's figure out.
Yeah.
There's a positive spin to everything, and
Help you not get so overwhelmed.
yeah, long story short, the guy didn't fire me. He was like, "Oh yeah, well, it didn't quite work out." He was so nice. He's like, "Yeah, this swap isn't going to work for me." And I'm thinking, yeah, like how quickly can we get back in the car and get out of here? A guy came out with no shirt on that I think was squatting in the house in this desert house. Like, "Do you want me to show you around?" And we're like, "No, thanks." Like, how fast can we get out of here? But anyway, long story short, I ended up listing his house on the oceanfront.
Dang.
Yeah, and then I ended up representing the buyer and the seller when I sold it.
Holy crap.
And you found the buyer too?
Yeah.
That's got to be hard because most luxury homes, they already have most buyers have buyer agents already.
Yeah.
For you to double end it, that's very
This is like
insane.
2013, so the oceanfronts weren't quite what they are now. But
Okay.
yeah, so that was my...
So you said door knocking. For those who don't know Newport Beach or even the peninsula here in Newport, I mean, these are all beautiful, huge houses right on the sand. I can't even imagine what you felt door knocking those.
Intimidating, yeah.
Like that is. Sometimes I don't even want to look in the window because I feel like awkward making eye contact with the owners. Like, and that's my own stuff. But what made you even think about door? Because I've never heard another realtor talk about door knocking luxury.
Yeah.
I didn't have another option because the real estate coach that I had at the time was like, work your CFO or
Sphere of influence.
Sphere of influence, yeah, whatever it's
SOI.
called. SOI. Thank you. Your SOI. Work your SOI. And I'm like, my SOI is like the 8 people I work at Houston's with. Nobody at Houston's is buying a house, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't really have an option. It was like open houses, door knocking. He's like, I don't care where you are. If you're getting gas, talk to the person at the gas station. It's like he kind of like embedded that in my thought process of like there's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think I just kind of adapted that.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone away.
What do you tell then, right? Because your experience is so unique in the success you've had. What do you tell people who are asking you for advice to break into luxury? Are you telling them to go door knock? Are you telling them to do open houses? What are you giving any guidance on? Because I'm sure you get solicited for that all the time.
Yeah, people ask that a lot, and I think you need to figure out what you're good at and then do that. Some people are really good at cold calling, you know, so if that's your thing, stick with that. If like doing something that you're not, that's hard to say because I think you can really get good at anything if you try hard enough. But I don't know, sometimes it's hard because I think so many new agents get in the business and you could tell them, you know, door knock, do open houses. And it's like, I don't know, maybe nowadays it's different too because now they're all doing like their TikToks and it's like, I don't know, is that the new door knocking?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, kind of.
So I don't know, do whatever works for you, really.
Yeah.
But you have to stick with it. You can't just do it once and then walk away.
Yeah. The luxury world is a world that many people aspire but never experience. Did you grow up in the luxury space? And if you didn't, what have you learned now being so enveloped in it? Like, what have been some cool stories you could share, like crazy experiences you've had that have been very impactful for you?
Definitely didn't grow up in it. Not even close. I think there's definitely like a sticker shock coming here, and even just like to sell a $10 million house, right? I think you have to have a good amount of confidence, not just in yourself, but in what you're doing. So, and I think that confidence comes through in how you act and how you present yourself. So I think and confidence for me came with, what's the word I'm looking for? Just
Experience?
Confidence came with experience,
Yeah.
right? So like like when somebody says, "Oh, I want to break into the luxury market," I'm like, "Okay, whoa, like let's work." Like you have to work your way there.
Yeah.
I think somebody coming in and who's like, "Oh, I want to sell $10-20 million houses," has never sold a house in their life. It's like the confidence is going to come through. So I don't know, and I wouldn't discourage somebody from trying, but I think you should start small, get your feet wet, like get the confidence, and then, you know, try to tackle the bigger stuff.
Do you have any questions you want to shoot out as far as the experience goes?
I think, you know, just listening to you talk about these $10 million homes, like how is it negotiating when you're doing big deals? Like, because think about it's a difference when you're negotiating a couple $1,000 here and there, like 10,000, 20,000, like a big dollar amount like that, back and forth. How does that go? And also because since you're a woman, do men sometimes think like, oh, she's not going to be a shark because it's a woman? Like, does it give you an advantage or disadvantage when you negotiate? Like, I'm guessing you're not like, oh, $10,000 closing costs, nothing like that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely. I've had my fair share of clients who I think have treated me less than, you know, I probably have purposely not remembered all of the comments, but there's definitely a couple clients that I remember I honestly can't even remember what they said, but it was very, you know.
It was the type of comment you wouldn't want to remember.
Yeah. I don't know. I try to like just remember the good things.
Yeah. Especially for the mindset focus.
Yeah.
So what has that negotiation experience been though when you have to represent them and do that? Just because, like to Min's point, we're used to try to negotiate 10, 15K for closing costs. Like you're negotiating $100,000 off price sometimes, maybe more. Like, what does that world look like, or what's like your mindset that you use when you're trying to help your clients?
I mean, I don't think you can just go and ask for a huge price reduction if there's no like warrant for it. Like you have to, like if the house is brand new and it's perfect, and then you're like, actually, we would like a big reduction. Like you're not going to get very far. But, you know, I think in this space of luxury, you're definitely dealing with very wealthy individuals. Their time is very important. So I think when you ever whether you're representing the buyer or the seller, like if you're representing the seller and the buyer wants a credit, you know, there's a lot of negotiations and conversations that I have. I'll probably have 10 conversations between me and the other agent before I even approach the seller, right? So very solutions oriented. So I always come with a solution, not like the problem. And I think people appreciate that, especially when somebody's really busy. If we're like, hey, this is what happened, you know, this is what I think we should do. Like, let's get the compromise.
Yeah.
It's usually received pretty well.
Yeah. You always have at least an option, not like, hey, here's a problem.
Yeah.
Here's what I think we could do. What do you think? And then they could expand from there.
Yeah.
That's actually really good, because even like the teams I lead, especially like anybody who's in the manager positions that I lead, I'm always like, you're a manager. You can't just come with telling me what's wrong.
Yeah.
Like I need a starting point of something of what you're thinking is to solve so that I can expand from there. What's been one of the craziest things you've had in have you had a buyer be like, I really want that furniture piece, or like something that's like kind of weird or like, have you had anything like that in any of your negotiation experiences?
So that oceanfront that I door knocked and dragged to the desert was Emma Stone's dad. Is that her name?
Oh, yeah. I know
the
Emma
redhead?
Stone.
The one that with the help?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah, Emma Stone.
Yeah. And so when we were in escrow, I came over there. We were doing like an inventory list or whatever. And it was the night that she was on. I think she was getting an Oscar for The Help or something. So it was kind of fun to sit there and watch it with him.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What's the house you're most proud of representing?
Like them all.
Good answer. Good answer.
Which one has blown you away? Like, is there a sale of a home or a purchase that has been an inspirational story for you? Like one that is a feeler for you that you're just really proud that you were a part of it?
I mean, the 17.6 one, not just because of the price, but I think because of the client. You know, sometimes you think you're going to deal with somebody that's very wealthy and that they could be, you know, rude or dismissive. Like, honestly, one of the nicest families I've ever worked with, you know, so humble, so kind, so appreciative, you know, so it's hard because I actually really enjoy a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to ask this. When you do a closing for a luxury deal, do you do closing gifts, or like what do you do to like? I always feel like that's a hard one.
It's
like,
so
what do you
hard.
do? Get a gift card,
right?
right? It's like
or a high five.
A bottle champagne.
I struggle with that, right? So, you know, like an oceanfront I sold, they didn't have any kids, so I got them
Kids.
No, they didn't have any
I adopted children for them.
No, they didn't have any kids. So like I sold an oceanfront where they had like 5 kids, and I got all personalized towels and beach bags and like sand toys and like some wine, you know. So
that's really cute.
So that's kind of fun because
Yeah.
a lot of these people are buying beach houses. It's like, what do you get them?
Yeah.
You know,
I like the personalized towels.
Pat on the back.
Yeah.
Good job.
I mean, I don't know. Alcohol goes far.
Yeah.
They need a bottle of wine after a closing and escrow sometimes.
So you've created a very successful real estate business, and it's been neat too, because a lot of people that I've seen at your level of success in real estate are super showy, and you can see they have extremely fancy cars, all this stuff. You're very humble in how you just operate your life. It seems like you've taken a lot of your success and financed your flipping business.
Yeah.
So you put all your funds to just work for you even further. How's that experience been? What have you learned from that? We're talking about flipping homes that like you buy for.
Well, flipping means you sell them. I have yet to sell them. I'm a hoarder apparently. So yeah, which is great because all my money's in real estate, which, you know, I'm a firm believer in, obviously, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of fun. I think it motivates me, you know, when you're building a house, especially 2 houses at the same time, you wake up and you're like, I got to go to work today.
Yeah.
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 I can't take a day off and sit back. So
Yeah.
I love being busy. I almost thrive in chaos. So like the busier my life is, the better.
How far away are you from trying to sell these two? Are you going to sell them or put a
No.
long-term tenant?
Yeah, I'm going to keep them.
Dang.
I know.
Would you mind sharing some of the experiences with that? Like because you initially bought it to flip.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what changed?
They
appreciate
I liked
it a
the
lot.
house a lot.
Did you move into
I
one?
did. I just moved out of it, actually. The first one I bought during COVID, I got such a good deal on it because nobody knew what was happening, right?
Yeah.
The market was
She got high on
crashing.
her own supply.
I did. And then I was like, oh, this house is so nice. I didn't want to move out of it. But then I moved into the other house I built, which I actually really like. So.
And then you're renting out the other one, long-term tenant, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what are you going to do next? Are you going to try to do another flip?
I have a third one I'm still finishing. I'm about 45 days from being done.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has been the most surprising thing in that flip?
It's very expensive.
Surprisingly, how expensive it is.
Double your budget, double your timeline. Everyone tells you that, and you're like, no, I'm different. I can do it faster. No. And I'm not a good micromanager, I've discovered through this process. Like, I hire people that don't need, it's hard. Like, if I have to give you a list of things to do today, it's not going to work. Like, I need somebody who's ambitious and, like, I'm happy to give direction, but not like to show up and be like, okay, you need to paint that wall today.
Yeah.
Like, you're a painter. You should know to paint that wall.
Yeah.
So.
You look for self-starters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not
So
just
flipping a
task
home,
managers.
you should definitely micromanage. I learned that.
So get a good contractor.
Yeah, or a project manager.
Yeah.
Or find a partner that wants to do it that maybe has more free time than you.
So you've remodeled 3 homes. What was the worst thing that went wrong in any of those 3 homes?
I had to fire my contractor because it was my kid's dad.
Awkward.
It's like, so this isn't working.
That's hilarious. Well, I've asked like 4 questions in a row, and I try to always make it even. Min, do you have anything that you want to ask on those pieces? Because I know flipping is always a fun topic.
Yeah, I think when you did your first flip, did you when you flip these properties, especially like luxury homes, like how do you estimate like how much you're gonna put into it? Because like, since it's not like you're gonna go flip a house in like Compton or a house in Long Beach, like do you have to go all in on like the yum, the good? You got to get like everything. You got to go all out on it.
I think that's part of the problem, right? If I'm in Costa Mesa doing a house, I have Newport taste, right? So it's why I end up keeping these houses because I was like, oh, it's so pretty. I don't want to sell it. So I think if I went into a flip with the mindset like I'm going to sell this, I would probably do it differently.
Do you think you're going to do that again?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you want to buy next?
Costa Mesa.
Okay.
Actually, no. So the plan would be, and the reason why I'm keeping these 2 is I'm going to run them for the next 2 years, and then I'm going to 1031 those 2 rentals, and I want to get something on the oceanfront.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my plan.
One of the last questions I have, especially seeing you operate, how the hell do you remember all these random people's desires? Because one of the things I've seen with her is she gets like some pocket listing, and then she goes, oh, I know who can buy your house. This person I met 4.5 years ago. Yeah. Like, let me connect. Like, what is your secret with that? Because you just double end all the time. Like, you are so good at being a perfect match finder.
Yeah, it's a matchmaking business, right? Well, it's funny. So I was in a team meeting on Wednesday, and somebody on the team's like, oh, I walked this house on Kings Road. And he's like, yeah, if anyone knows, it's like halfway built, under construction, seller needs out, take over construction. I was like, oh, I have somebody, and showed it yesterday, which was Thursday. So Wednesday, found out about it, showed the house yesterday, wrote an offer on it last night. So
you don't hesitate at all.
No.
You just get
it's not
stuff
the business
done.
where you can like sit around and wait. Like time kills deals, that's for sure.
Yep.
And it's like strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
Saying so.
That's great.
No time like the present.
Yeah. No, I don't understand how you keep it all memorized, because you do it from memory.
I think a lot of it's like intuition too,
Hmm.
right? Like trust what you're like. If somebody pops, so if I'm driving down the road and someone pops in my head, I call them. Like there's a reason.
That's so smart. I feel like a lot of times I've had people pop in my head, and then all of a sudden I see that they did a deal, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Like,
See, it's a
damn
thing.
it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it really is. Something is just like energetically just
Yeah.
trying to give you a nudge. Okay. And you think that Kings Road is going to work? For people who don't know Kings Road, it's like one of the coolest streets. And
It's so yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. My client, they want it, so
Heck yeah.
I have to make it happen. That's what they told me.
How do you deal with that pressure, especially from
Oh, I'll
super
make it
successful
happen.
people?
I like it.
Yeah,
I like the pressure.
that's what riles you up.
Yeah, gets me going.
Real estate is such a relational business with agents and clients. So, how do you manage a relationship when you go up against a real estate agent and you've been friends, but now you have to negotiate? Like, do you care how? Like, what do you do in that? Especially if they're trying to play hardball and they're not wanting to give your client what they want, or if you're in the middle of a transaction and you accepted their offer, but now they're trying to just take advantage of your seller. Like, what do you do in those moments? How do you balance out between being nice, professional, managing a relationship, and making sure you fight for your client?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to be respectful to everybody, and I think you'll get respect back. And I think, I just had an escrow fallout with an agent in my office, very reputable agent, and kind of made me look bad in front of my client. But instead of like getting angry or upset with them,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, what can we do to fix this?
Yeah.
Like, let's work together. We fell out of escrow and we should be putting it back into escrow today. So, instead of, I think, being bitter and getting mad at her for canceling for no reason, I don't know. I think it's just treating people with respect. It's a small
Yeah.
town. You don't want to burn any bridges.
Yeah. What do you do as a female trying to negotiate and do that? Only because from what we've been told from our other successful female entrepreneurs, there's like this balance of being too nice, being too mean. Like, what would you give that guidance and advice to somebody who's trying to find what they should do in trying to balance that out?
I think it's hard because everybody's personalities are different. So I just think it comes back to respect, just treating people with respect, but also like holding your ground. Don't be a pushover.
Yeah.
If you're representing your client, your best interest is with your client. And so if you're trying to negotiate something for them, I think there's a way that you can do it respectfully.
Yeah.
Without, being rude,
Yeah.
but also being firm.
Yeah. I think it's that aspect. I'm hearing know what's right, know what's wrong, and stick to what's right every time, no matter what.
It's the Canadian in me.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You are Canadian. Yeah, that's funny. That's the Washington piece. That
Yeah.
makes
No, I
total
never
sense.
said that. Yeah, I moved from Canada to Washington. But
Got it.
There's
Yeah.
something new.
Dude.
yeah.
Yeah,
Canadian taking over Newport Beach.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Watch out.
All right. So last closing thought. I'd love to hear. I mean, literally, you went from Canada, ketchup chips,
Yeah,
barista.
I love ketchup chips.
They all do. It's the weirdest thing.
What?
Just kidding. So you went from ketchup chips to barista to Newport Beach, or to Houston's hostess, successful agent in Newport Beach. You've had a really cool history of just success. So what would you tell that young Tara who's trying to decide, should I give up on this coffee shop because I see all this stuff changing? Like, what words of encouragement would you tell that person so that they can truly believe and keep betting on themselves and hitting that success?
I think you should never give up. I think you should always see it through, even if it's something you don't want to do. Like even with my kids, it's like say you start a sport and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't care if you don't like it. You're finishing it. You started it. You finish it.
Yeah.
You give it your best the whole time, and then you never have to do it again. That's fine. So
Just don't quit.
Just don't quit.
Love that.
Yeah.
Last question.
I don't know if I had a last question. I'm just trying to adjust to like how she just adapts so well, and I think to
Super
me
well,
that's
right?
encouraging to see like adapt to change. Like Canada, Washington, just like, you know what? I'm selling this coffee shop to a barbecue joint. Move to California, was a hostess, sold one house in 2 years, and it's like just keeping up with this transition is like what keeps that flame going to like pivot, change. Okay, pivot, change, not give up. Like what is it that
in spite of anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my whole life I've been that way, right? Nobody's ever given me anything. We grew up at different time where parents didn't do anything for us, right? Had to buy my own car, moved out when I was 17, paid for my own school, paid for my own cell phone, which sounds crazy nowadays with these kids. So I don't know. I was never handed anything ever, not once.
I'm taking everything away from my kid when I get home.
And here I am I'm like, I knew how hard it was. And so like, it's hard. Like when you have kids, you're like, I want to give them everything.
Yeah.
I don't want them to struggle like I did.
Yeah.
But then it's like the struggle is why I am where I am.
Yeah.
Grit.
Put a little grit in there, a little sand.
Yeah.
So you see traction.
If you've listened to this episode and you're thinking, I want to have that type of disciplined mindset, that mentality to not give up, the ability to be so self-confident that no matter what changes in my life, I just keep going. I hope you're encouraged with the fact that the struggles in your life will be the path to the success you'll then celebrate. So if you're doubting yourself, if you're in a time of pivot, take this story as an encouragement to give yourself a chance. Keep pushing yourself and not quit, because as we hear in this testimony, it can create some really beautiful success. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.